Do you hear that? It's something quite extraordinary. If you pay attention and listen closely, you'll hear the stories of senior executives transforming brands and the experiences of real people in their natural habitat with those very same brands. Follow your host, Dennis Wakabayashi, as he pulls out his microphone to capture authentic reactions from the people he meets as he travels around the world. These are unrehearsed, unsponsored, and real conversations about CX that you won't find anywhere else. This is CX in the Wild.
All right, Jimmy Chebat?
Yes.
Jimmy Chebat. So here's what's going on here. I've decided just to do CX in the wild, where it's unscripted, unplanned. I catch people that have great conversations. Mm-hmm. And so thank you for being on CX in the wild.
Of course.
Completely impromptu. So before we start, just to put it in context, can you tell the audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jimmy Chebat. I am the founder and CEO of Zizo Technologies. We are a gamification platform, and what we're looking to do is revolutionize workforce management by bringing an element of fun to work and gamifying it using business metrics to help drive the business objective while at the same time keeping employees engaged and having fun to reduce the attrition rate and make everybody happy.
I love that, and I always I have this like quandary inside whenever I think about your company, because the word gamification has so many connotations and definitions already that it's sort of antithetical to business enterprise like nomenclature. Mm-hmm. But the irony is it's exactly what will unite the humans in your office to the technologies that they're working with and the performance that a business wants to get. And so it's not really a game, is it, Jimmy? It's like you provide this new interface that's transformational for workers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you said it earlier about it's a pretty broad stroke, you know, when you use the term gamification. And you know, the difference between what we do in the general sense is that we create an immersive experience where we leverage a lot of the same game mechanics that the most popular video games and mobile apps use. So this younger generation who are, I hate to use the term addicted, but you know, completely engaged with these games now are very familiar with the mechanics of it. And rather than a business coming in and saying, hey, here's a quota, if you don't hit it, you're fired, you know, it's, hey, here's a goal, if you hit it, there's a prize at the end of, you know, the objective. And we do that in so many different ways and create an engaging experience that, like you said, everybody wins.
It really is just a small nuance in the way that you address the employee experience. And I always think the best innovations start with a truth, you know. The way we interact with employees as non-humans, as commodities, is not the way that things should be done going forward, nor is it even on trend anymore with the Great Resignation. I think we see that in some ways, not to like over exaggerate what you're doing, but you're really like one of the first companies that's a antidote to the Great Resignation, you know, because your platform creates culture. It creates an immersive, or at least a highly engaging interface between the person and the business. And so I'm a huge fan. Can you talk to me a little bit about the Great Resignation and what you're seeing? Because you're right there at the forefront of trying to solve for this. What's happening really in the Great Resignation? Is it as big as we think?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not getting any better, and it's really a perfect storm, right? So pre-COVID, you have your generational shift, which is a natural evolution of your workforce, where you've got a lot of baby boomers that are retiring, and you've got more and more Gen Z coming in. So the representation right now is, you know, a balance of Gen X, of millennials, and then Gen Z. Over the next 5 years, that's just going to get worse, where 75% of the workforce will be millennials and Gen Z. So, and they think differently, act differently, expect different things, and traditional management methods are just no longer effective. Now enter COVID, and now you've got work from home. So there are a lot of companies that have developed great cultures, And now that culture is starting to erode because everybody's remote, and so they don't have that human interaction. So they're adding things like Teams, Slack, Zoom to try to bring people closer, but it's very difficult. Let's add in there a couple other elements. You have rising wages. Here in the United States, you have companies like McDonald's, Burger King offering $20 an hour, and now Target is saying we're going to pay our associates $24 to $26 an hour. Contact centers are very difficult. Now you're competing with these things. One last piece is the gig economy. People can go drive Uber, go deliver DoorDash, go down Upwork and be a freelancer. There's so many opportunities that those actually serve as a safety net. So if somebody's unhappy at work, they're just going to quit. In the past, people didn't quit until they had another job lined up. Now they're just quitting and just saying, I'll just drive Uber until I find another job. So the Great Resignation is just escalating. And until you find a solution that's going to solve the remote workforce, the younger generation, and competing, because a lot of this young generation, it's not always about money. But sometimes they're attracted to the money, but once they get there, they don't like the job. But if you have a culture that's engaging, that they love, and they feel that they're being recognized, they have a sense of belonging and purpose, they're going to stay there even for less money. So that's what we're trying to do here is we're really gearing this towards the younger generation, because, as I said earlier, over the next 5 to 10 years, they are going to be the full workforce, the majority of it.
You make me think of something. When I came by your booth yesterday, one of the things we talked about that I think is really interesting is this idea of, and you just touched on it there a little bit, which is these new generations are completely about performance. Whether it's the performance in their video games, one of the reasons why achievements have become a norm in our culture is because the video game systems have taught you about leaderboards, about rankings, about quests, about achievements. And your platform, what's interesting about it is it gives you this sense of continuous achievement within the workplace, which is really what most people try to leave, because they don't get the recognition, they don't have regular feedback. And so your platform introduces this idea of, maybe not, I would say it's not even just introduces the idea, it introduces the responsible business action of continuous employee feedback. It's something they can measure their own self-worth or their own pace as we manage work-life balance. Being able to say, I want to choose to do work or my life, oftentimes what I think drives us is I can feel a sense of accomplishment in my life or at my job. And your platform, it surrounds everyone with the ability to achieve more on demand or also monitor their performance. How did you even come up with that and institute that?
Yeah, so my original iteration of this I developed 10 years ago, and it was a platform based on business intelligence and accountability, right? So, and then transparency, which I think is one of the first things that we wanted to do perfectly, which is, hey, let's let everybody know where they stood, right? And then also let's make sure that they understand what our expectations as a business are of them. And then where do they stand relative to those expectations? And then also where do they stand relative to their peers, which is essentially a leaderboard, right? So, and then as it started to evolve, you mentioned it's about metrics, but I think more importantly, you mentioned a little bit later, it's about recognition. It's very difficult for a manager to walk around an office, especially if you have a large team, and pat everybody on the back and give them instantaneous feedback about how well they're doing or how bad they're doing, and giving them the proper coaching. And so our platform, borrows from the game mechanics of these video games and provides that instantaneous feedback loop. They do something good, they're rewarded immediately. They're recognized by their team. So we're using extrinsic motivators to keep them engaged in what they're doing. So rather than having a monotonous job that they're coming in, they're getting beat up on the phone, getting hung up on, told, hey, stop calling me, and it's just redundant and mundane. Now every task is a new challenge, and there's goals in front of them, and they're getting closer and closer. So, for me, creating it was kind of a natural evolution, but I studied video games. I have a young son at home, and I watched him play and how he navigated and how he became addicted to the games. And I said, this is what this generation needs and wants and craves and that they're using. So why not borrow that? And again, although this is innovative and forward thinking, we're just borrowing things that have been working over the past 10 years. And if you think about gamification, although it's novel when thinking about it applied to work, if you look at Peloton, they revolutionized a stationary bicycle, okay, which used to just collect dust and act as a coat hanger, and turn it into a multi-billion-dollar brand just by adding gamification.
You're exactly right about that. And can I just, because we're on CX in the Wild, I like to just speak my mind.
Sure.
I noticed there's like two kinds of parents. There's parents that have sat and watched their children play these video games, and then parents who maybe they're not into the video game thing. And so I've noticed a growing lack of perception around these games. These games that our children play, I sit with my son. One of our pastimes is there was a time where he's 19. There was a time at about 12 years old where I no longer possessed the intelligence or the time or the energy to even be able to play with him. I just had to take a passenger seat and watch him play.
Yep.
The way they build out their skill trees and assemble and craft different items within these video games. It's a tremendous learning and ability and skill that they start to cultivate early on, and it's so much more than us as parents can understand. To see that and know it from my own heart and see it with my son, I think that's one of the things that makes me fascinated and drawn to your project, because you are recognizing it, and it's more than just the game. It is this new way in digital that we communicate success at micro levels that improve the human being's desire to improve themselves. So I really am fascinated by what you're doing. Now, you're building a company in the space and you're breaking new ground. What's that like? What is the road for you like? Can you just tell me a little bit about
Sure.
The last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. I think the last time I had a job has been more than a half of my lifetime ago. So for the past 24 years, I'm 45. I've worked for myself and I've built several businesses. I've had several failures. I've had multiple successes, and I've been able to learn from both failures and successes. And this one has been fairly challenging for several reasons. Number one, when you're an innovator and sometimes you're ahead of the curve, you've got to educate people on something new and novel and get them to buy into it. And I think we're at a precipice here where the need and the solution converge pretty quickly, because attrition is such a huge problem, and everybody's trying to put these band-aids on it to solve it, and it's just not working. Like, again, increasing wages, one of the big reasons is, you mentioned the Great Resignation. Another term that people are throwing around is the war for talent, right? So they're poaching each other's employees, and the way they're doing it is just offering more money, which is causing everybody else to say, well, I'm going to have to raise my wages. That doesn't fix the solution. So to answer your question in terms of perspective of building a new company, we have very, very large ambitions. And so when you build a company, you got to build the right team. You have to find leaders for each of those teams, and you've got to work with direct reports. And so you're building much more of an infrastructure than just the innovativeness of the game. So balancing being almost like a product owner, and being working with the development team to build this out, but then also working with the sales team to make sure that they're selling properly and you have the right tools and tech stack, and working with the marketing team and working with the operations team. It's a juggling act, and it's I'm fortunate to have some experience in it. But as you grow, it's about adding the right people to the team, so that way I don't have to do it all. Right. So it's fun. I'm having a great time. This is a blast.
So far it's going well. I've seen you at a lot of these shows. So one of the things I think would be on the mind of the audience is, great, you have a new system, a platform full of new kinds of incentives, drivers for the human spirit, but also connected to these business levers. great. It sounds like another thing I got to add into my complex ecosystem at my office, where I'm already in the war for talent, dealing with the great resignation, and I already have all these systems that kind of work. And I see a lot of leaders trying to double down on the systems that they have that have netted out some sort of improvement. So you're really talking about, can you just break it down? Are you replacing some of the things that they have, or are you grafting onto them to improve them? Can if I'm in a business, can I start small and like grow the culture around one team? What are your clients asking you for, and how do you address some of those issues?
It's a great question, and it is a challenge that we have. And as you mentioned, there are so many systems and so many new systems that they've already added because of the remote workforce. So they're introducing new communication channels, as I said earlier, with Zoom and Slack and Teams, and they've got so many performance management tools out there that they're trying to kind of grab and capture data and metrics and create reports for their managers to be able to identify which agents need to be worked with and coached. What we do, so one of the objectives when I started to develop this platform is I wanted to automate it, and I wanted to reduce the amount of administrative function. And so there's a ton of algorithms that will automate the process. So we integrate directly with systems of record. So we're not necessarily replacing any of your systems. Okay, we may at some point maybe replace your business intelligence and your dashboards, because we provide BI as well as the gamification aspect. And so once we're able to grab the data from your systems of record.
Before you say that, you just like a light bulb went in my head. Everybody has these BI dashboards, and what is interesting about your system is natively in your system, you have the human performance connected to the business intelligence in the same environment. So there's not translations, integrations. Like I work with a lot of companies who have all these different data sets that they're always trying to combine to create an insight. And it seems to me like if I was sitting in a business right now under the current climate of workforce, I'd be really interested to know what my workforce was doing and how it affected my revenue. So that just, it struck me. Like, I don't think there's a lot of systems out there that are natively inside the ecosystem delivering human and business intelligence. And yeah. Anyway, back to you. I just had to call that out because that's pretty.
Well, it's a great kind of tangent to go off of to explain what Zizo stands for. Zizo stands for zoom in, zoom out. And as a leader of a business, and I've operated a contact center, you're above the trees in the clouds making business decisions for the entire operation, for its future. And sometimes when you're looking at data, you're looking at it again like above the trees, but you have the ability to drill down into that data efficiently and get really granular into the weeds, where now instead of looking at it as an operation, now you're looking at it by department, then by team and by individual. You can get to the root of the problem pretty quickly, with our platform, because we're grabbing all the data from all the systems. And rather than have you swimming in this data lake where it's like, how do I look at it? We really just focus on what KPIs and what metrics are driving your overall business objective. And that's part of our onboarding process is, consulting with you to really nail down what we call the bottom-up approach. Like, number one, let's make your employees happy and engaged. Number two, let's identify the behaviors and the metrics that really drive that big business goal.
Yeah.
Let's not just focus on that. Let's say, hey, show up to work on time, work your hours. Those are 3 metrics that you can gamify that'll help solve some of your attendance problems. If you give people an incentive that what we believe in our generation to be like, that should be expected. Well, that's not expected anymore.
That's right.
And they're like, hey, if I can't get the schedule that I want, I'm not coming in, and I'll just quit and go someplace else, because they're offering flexible schedules.
Or if you don't get credit for showing up on time every day. If you don't get,
they want to be recognized. Like you said, give me a badge. Show me that I've got a perfect attendance for this week, and give me a badge for it, and let everybody else know about that. And that's what they want, that recognition, and not just by their peers, but by their leaders. And again, we are a different generation, or this is a different generation, and where our generation is, that's expected, and that should be the bare minimum. it's not that way with this newer generation.
Okay. So getting back to your original answer, sorry for that, but it was a beautiful sidetrack. So you can start in some part of the organization that provides value to a leader. Who are the leaders that you're talking to who recognize this and are able to sort of show those short-term initial wins? Where are you entering in, and how does your solution start to manifest its value in this organization?
It's a great question in the way you phrase it there. So, our sales cycle is very diverse, meaning we can enter in from at the C-suite level, working with the executive team, or you can get in at the agent level where somebody recognizes this is great, I'd love to have it at work, and then they introduce you to the manager and then to the director and then to the VP. So it doesn't matter where you enter, you need multiple stakeholders to kind of buy into it in order to get them to commit. But then once you commit, especially if you're a larger company, you don't want to just scale this out across the organization. We do proof of concepts where we pick a team, okay, and we integrate with their systems, and we do a limited rollout with even a smaller group of that team, just to make sure that the data is coming in accurately. We're populating.
Like how many people are on that?
It could be anywhere from a couple hundred down to 10.
Okay.
So it depends. I mean, it's really kind of almost a percentage of your workforce. So if you've got 1,000 people, sample source could be 100, 10%. Or if you only got 100 people, it could be just 10. So it's not necessarily 10%. It depends on how their teams are structured, and then what is the easiest barrier of entry. Meaning, if everybody's working off of the same systems, great, we can pick any group of people. But if you've got multiple divisions, then where could we access that data the easiest? Because again, sometimes you have clients, if you're a BPO, and they say, hey, look, there's a lot of restrictions here, we got to get approval, this, that, and the other. Well, let's not focus on that. Let's take a team that you've got access to the data pretty easily. We can integrate easily and then get this rolled out as quickly as possible. Proof concept. And once they see the results, once they see their attrition rates dropping, once they see their performances going up, the engagement improving, and a culture starting to develop, they're going to want to immediately scale. So, you just prove the concept as quickly as possible. It doesn't matter what size team. Smaller the better, though.
I liked what you said there. The whole time you started into that, I was thinking, there's the idea of scale. Starting small is just fine, because I suspect even before they even get to the results, I think just having for the first time a view of culture, business performance, work being done in one view is inspiring as it can be to some people. Well, I love that. Here's the last thing I'll ask you. I know I'm picking your brain. I've seen you at a lot of shows. We've talked a lot. I know that I see you mostly at call center shows because, of course, there's a great little group that it plays right into your hands for the way you've built this system. I also think that a sales team of any organization would benefit from this. Sometimes, just being honest, I feel like while customer care, being a CX guy myself, is like at the pinnacle of customer experience and CX, I also recognize that sales teams are often unsung heroes of the entire experience. Like, they are the ones who sell the vision or present the experience. And so I like to celebrate salespeople also. But sales teams can benefit from this, obviously. So you have customer care teams that you can enhance. You have sales teams and sales performance that you can enhance. Are those the two key teams, or is there another team or a fourth team that this is perfect for in an organization?
Yeah, great question. And we feel that our product is industry agnostic, departmental agnostic. If you have a group of a workforce that all share the same tasks and responsibility, obviously if you've got a small group, maybe one or two people, a leaderboard is almost meaningless because you're either in first place or second place, right? So if you've got a larger sales team, for example, and they're all competing to have the most sales and close the most deals and bring in the most money, and those are all metrics, and even just setting up demos and having meetings can be gamified as well. And so you can drive behaviors, good solid behaviors, through reinforcing them through incentives. So it works in sales. It works in contact centers. It also works in retail, right? So you have a sales, people selling in retail. You have fast food, right? These are repeatable business models, right? So you've got people in the drive-through that are trying to service customers and do it in a fast way, but also high quality. Everything could be gamified. So for us, it was a matter of focus, right? Get into the market, focus on one channel, and then win that channel, and then expand. So that's why you see us at contact centers. I think that they have the largest workforce that usually do the same task, and they have a traditional gamified culture anyways. So we're just taking that gamified culture and digitizing it and making it automated in a new immersive experience.
So let me just unpack that for a second. I was going to let you out of here, but now you've made me ask another question. If I'm a call center agent, I am looking at a screen that has scripts, and I'm on a screen, so I'm very familiar and comfortable with this on-screen environment, this virtual working environment. Does your platform also tie into existing platforms that feed in the scripts, and can I play it there, or is it more a different item?
Yeah, no, we're staying in our lane. We don't want to compete with the CRMs. We don't want to add value to that CRM or be a plugin in that CRM. We want to be an add-on module that's separate. So we're just leveraging data and metrics from those systems, and we kind of sit on the side, as it's a browser base. We're going to be releasing our mobile this year as well, hopefully within the first 2 quarters. We're already almost done with the first quarter, so that way they can just take their phone out of their pocket and they get notifications like, hey, you're this close to hitting your daily goal, or you're about to win a contest, or you're about to break the record. All of these things will help them, drive them to push a little bit harder and do a little bit more, and that's where you're going to get the performance lift. But we don't want to do something that we're not good at or we're not built for. We want to stay in a gamification.
So it doesn't change the experience of their job at all.
None at
it
all.
Literally just is an enhanced experience, a companion experience that really bridges the business and the person.
Exactly. Yeah. We're an add-on kind of to the side. We're like, just imagine just wearing a backpack and that's it. Everything else that they do, they continue, stays the same. So
it doesn't interrupt business.
No. It's actually pretty seamless. Once you've got the integration, we're able to grab that data. It's fairly automated. 90% of our platform is automated, and it mimics a lot of the same game mechanics of the top video games out there. And that's one of our value propositions, is it's not going to add more work for you.
Awesome. All right, so a couple of things. If someone's listening to this and they want to find out more or contact you, how do they close the loop? How do they act on getting closer to this new frontier of better employee experiences?
Yeah, you can go to our website first and learn a little bit more at playzizo.com. That's PLAYZIZO.com, and you can get more information there. My email address is jimmy@playzizo.com. You can email me. You can find me on LinkedIn and a lot of social media. So we have social in almost all platforms. So we'd love to hear from your audience, and if they're curious and they want to get a demo, please let us know. I'll connect you with one of our business development reps, and or myself. I'll do it with you guys. So would love to hear from your audience and show them more.
Awesome. So since this is CX in the Wild, the last part of the show is you can ask me one question.
Well, there's a lot I could probably ask you. When are we going to Dubai, I guess, is one of the questions. We talked about that.
That's a fantastic question. I think that in Dubai, their level of sophistication around experiences, it's definitely next level. And of course, when somebody says Dubai, you're going to think next level. But I'll tell you what I learned there, Jimmy. At Expo 2020, they built the most amazing experiences on earth, figuratively, literally, academically, quantitatively. And I think the budgets helped with that, and the stage and the importance, its relevancy in the context of the world. But what I tell you, what I thought was most impressive or most insightful about customer experience or our industry is that every one of the leaders that I met, they had a new many times they had an awakening to the idea of failing forward or failing better or being agile, but more than just fast, but adaptive, to say to themselves that each thing should just be better than it was, rather than, you can achieve the best of the best, but they I don't think any of them really set out. They had the North Star of like the best of the best.
Sure.
But each day with their teams, they were just like, this isn't great, let's make it a little better, or this didn't work out the way we assumed, and let's acknowledge that and move forward. So I think going to Dubai for us would be a fantastic experience in every version of the word.
Yeah, I think it's a great standard that, I'd love to see how they would view something like what we're doing, and then, whether they would adopt it immediately and then also continue to enhance it, because they have a wonderful standard up there. They want to be the best, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, and being on the forefront, you need to be there with
Yes,
the best classes.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn my mic off.
And so, our time together in the wild has come to an end. To continue your journey with Dennis, connect on LinkedIn or find out more at teamwakabayashi.com. Join us next time as we continue to explore the world of CX in the wild.